I think everything is ready, and we shall start. And the authors will join us for sure. Good morning, everyone. Dear valuable authors, keynote speakers. Yesterday it was indeed a great job from your side. Even I have been in parallel session at the same time. The quality of the presentation, it was discussion was indeed perfect. Even in Turkish session as well. So we were very happy actually to see those discussions. I really appreciate that. And so maybe Professor Jose may join us during the keynotes and discussions. So our valuable keynote speakers also here with us, and after finishing the keynote speech that I will try to play, Dr. Ruxana will take the responsibility to moderate the discussion in the roundtable. So I'm going to start now to be on time. So we shall start with, according to the program, with Dr. Bhusam. I think you are going to have live, so you can play, I think, your presentation, and we shall start officially today's program. Just a moment. Please, sorry, I forgot to also introduce the keynote speakers. A moment, if you give me.
Dr. Bhusam Hussain, holding PhD in Architecture and Urban Planning from Union American University. He is specialized in coastal territories, urban adaptation, and regeneration strategies. He currently holds a position in the Architecture and Urban Design program at the German University in Cairo.
Professor Dr. Haydar Ali Bisbat, holding the PhD in Electrical and Computer Engineering from the University of Porto, Portugal in 2013. He is currently affiliated with Khulna University in Bangladesh as a professor of mathematics under Science Engineering and Technology School, and he served as the head of mathematics discipline from 2015 to 2018. He has more than 20 years of teaching and research experience in the graduate and postgraduate levels at different topics.
Dr. Melika Maksic Moralic received her PhD degree in 2012 at the Faculty of Architecture, University of Belgrade. Her areas of interest are the institutional framework of planning and spatial development, large-scale retail building policies, planning experiences of developed European countries.
Professor Dr. Meekham holds PhD in urban planning from the University of California, Los Angeles. She is Vice Chairman of the Department of Geography and Resource Management, the Director of the Urban Studies Program, and Associate Director of the Institute of Future Cities at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. She is member of the Royal Town Planning Institute, a fellow of the Hong Kong Institute of Planners, and an academic advisor of the Hong Kong Institute of Urban Design. Her research interests are urban planning and governance, urban regeneration, sustainable development.
Thank you very much. It was a very short introduction. The bio that I had from you actually it was indeed powerful, but I asked my colleague Dr. Mariam to shorten it to exactly 30 seconds. That's why it was a little bit short. I apologize. I will try to put in the conference proceeding and the website for sure. So it is also great honor for us to have you here, dear Dr. Milika Hosam, indeed. So we shall start with Dr. Bhusam Hussain. So dear valuable authors, let's clap our hand for Dr. Bhusam Hussain. Dr. Husam, the floor is yours. And
thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, yes, you are right. We always have a problem with very long descriptions of ourselves. And even in this time, I had a problem that I have a very long lecture of about 1 hour. So thanks to the chairpersons, they allowed me to present a whole 1 hour now in the conference. No, this is a joke. Don't worry. It's only to see if some people waking up. And I think you have seen a whole day collapsing in front of your eyes now, you know. So, no, yes, the lecture is actually 1 hour, but I will just give a brief of 10 minutes during my speech now. And then the chairperson would be very kind to direct the audience and the authors to the YouTube lecture, if you don't mind. First of all, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Horash and Dr. Rosanna, for this kind invitation and for the successful conference every year. And as I said in the beginning yesterday, we have seen how it's developing every year, and it's really unbelievable effort that you are doing and you're putting together and to grow it, not only in terms of number of articles or the number of audience, but even the quality of the authors. And we have seen this yesterday in the session. So thank you very much for this. So the claps are actually for you, not to us. So my presentation today, I will reflect on the Egyptian planning experience from different perspectives, but this time probably with transversal concepts or scales, or in sometimes even time periods. So I will start the presentation reflecting on the structure of port cities in the ancient time, and then how it developed, how the regional planning developed to the territorial, then to understanding probably the contemporary structure of the planning in Egypt, but always from a territorial Mediterranean perspective, and reflecting from the urbanization recession of the whole Mediterranean coastline in particular. So in this brief, let's say, teaser or promo, I will just raise the questions that I tried to answer in the lecture, and you will be so kind then to watch the whole lecture. So what we see in front of us here is actually, these are 3 different cities in the Mediterranean with 3 different structures, and they are port cities, ancient port cities. So I ask the question regarding port cities: are they a potential in our contemporary day, or do we need to transform our understandings of these structures? Meaning that, is port cities really important, or is there more important elements than these structures in our present day? I ask, how did the ancient port city structure lead to the contemporary understanding of territorial connections? And I do this during the lecture by analyzing several cities on the coastline of Egypt and the Mediterranean, to understand the transversal connections between them, either by the coast-water relation or even in the hinterland through the railways or the network connections, and how that led to the understanding of new port conception, represented sometimes by a canal in some cases, such as the Suez Canal, which has created or several cities were born along this canal. So again, are they potentials, or we need to transform the understanding of these concepts? I ask myself, how did the concept of port city change or transformed over time? Of course, every time or every time period had its special characteristic. So how did the relation between the land, the water, and the function of the port change from being a fortification or only for trading to being an integral passage, such as river and canals, from previously being urban cross-continental element? And how this changed from being a human, serving a human activity, into serving much more complex structures. And in the middle of this territorial conception, what is the role of Suez Canal in this transformation? And how did this transformation of port-city relation change even the rural structure in our regions? And consequently, I ask, do we really have a population crisis, or is it only a concept that we try always to surf around? But to answer all these questions, a study probably over the 3 past years have been conducted on different levels, between courses, between personal research, between PhD and other activities, which led me to study the whole Mediterranean coast, represented by 21 countries, to understand several connections, several aspects and factors. And of course, statistics at the end are important to come up with conclusions, where at the end we find that along 21 countries in the Mediterranean, the utilized area actually of the coastline is only 4.35%. But even more to understand, not only from a perspective of a country, to understand it from a region perspective, I reflect on the northern coast of Egypt, represented by the area from Alexandria to Abu Qir, Edku, and Rashid area, and also the eastern part, represented by the Cairo and its relation to the Suez Canal, and even beyond that to the Sinai region. But even going in depth to some cities to understand the relation between water and the cities. And I present the case of Rome, the case of Split in Croatia, Alexandria, Monaco, Barcelona, Marseille, and Valencia. Of course, Genoa, Izmir, and Limassol are important cities to understand and reflect on some understanding or sometimes contradicting facts in our regions, where suddenly we find ourselves in the dilemma of putting ourselves in a box to understand the population, the densities, and the compactness as main keys to reflect on the urbanization and utilized area of the coastline, where we find at the end, throughout this study, we found that Rome, Split, and Alexandria, although they're having more population and it's more compacted, yet it's very low dense, and the utilized area is the lowest in the Mediterranean. Meanwhile, Barcelona, with lowest population, more density, more compactness, the utilized area of the coastline is relatively more. Of course, it's 17.78, for example, in Barcelona, 19 in Marseille, but relatively it's the highest rates of the Mediterranean. So therefore, 3 problems were raised: the Mediterranean densities and compactness of cities, and that it's not only the coastline urbanization is the problem, but also the port-city relation is an important problem that we have to tackle. And of course, reflecting on the municipal borders, because compactness, the ratio of the compactness means that we have more people in less area. And on the other hand, if we have less compactness, means we have less people in more area. And this is the problem of municipal border. So at the end, we try to give some proposals, probably very theoretical proposals on what is the sustainable density rates that coastlines must adapt in each of the countries in the Mediterranean. But of course, we don't forget about the rural and the rural structure is in these areas, and how to preserve the connection to the sea while the canal is dominating the development, at least speaking about Egypt, where the whole concept of or the whole ancient structure of port city land relation has collapsed in our day, because we have I think more important elements to be involved in or included in the development of, on the planning development of our cities. This is why we always see a disconnected relation between port or water and the city. So we put some guides or some conclusions related to the problems of population densities and compactness, as when we have more compactness and less densities, we will probably always have less connection to the ports. When we have less port with less relation to the city, we will have always less mobility among coastal areas and hinterlands. And when we have less rural development, we will have less connection to the coast and less economic domestic income. Of course, here I am just putting some keywords that are the result of the study, but in order to understand probably in a better way these results, we need to have a look at the whole lecture, and at the end to correct some concepts and understanding where the population, in my opinion, is not really the problem in our region, but the distribution of population. Because when we say that the coastline of the Mediterranean is only 4% is utilized, then I think we don't really have a problem with population, but rather we have a problem with the municipalities or the governmental policies trying to limit or distribute the population in certain areas, and therefore the centralization of economic activities are also the result. And we always look at rural versus urban or rural developments versus urban communities in our region, but I think we need to find a solution into how to integrate the rural and urban, and even port cities are not anymore relevant in our contemporary planning. Rather, we need to think of port canal cities rather than a port city, and integrate that into new, let me say, urban communities instead of new urban or new rural communities, where local planning would be guided towards this concept. And surprisingly, I would probably go against the point raised yesterday by several authors and even keynote speakers that we need to lower the percentage of the population in the world. I say that no, we need more population in our regions based on the statistics and numbers. I think we really need more population to balance the densities in our regions. And of course, this will go in parallel with balancing the resources that we have in our regions. And therefore, how to adapt, the final question is how to adapt all these concepts in a territorial planning vision, which is, by the way, not a dream, because it's already existing in Egypt. So if we look at the map of, or the new development of Egypt, we have about 45 new satellite cities, but they are distributed in a very, let me say, random way, if I may, if the term is correct, and in a very random way without any sort of connection among them. So probably the solution would be into how to guide them into the water, first of all, how to integrate urban and rural development, because of course the Suez Canal is giving above 12% of the GDP of Egypt, but also the rural structure or the delta is giving about 11.8 of the domestic income of Egypt. Why to ignore it? So I think we need to have a sort of connection, a model, planning model to organize the existing vision, which is, in my opinion, even somehow a successful model in Egypt through, and we can see this through the new capital, at which they are trying to stretch the population from Cairo to the Suez Canal. If the Egyptian people might know the map better, but the problem is with the other communities, new communities that are located somehow in a random way just to accommodate people, and in most cases they don't reach the target population. So the solution is by integrating hinterland and water through probably a hinterland polycenter model, and to integrate urban and rural structure as integrated, really integrated model, planning model to raise the domestic income. And of course, at the end, to revitalize all the connection between the coast and the canals on this region. Thank you very much for listening. I am sorry if I took long, but believe me, this is the shortest I can do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dear Dr. Bhusam, I really appreciate the way that you suggested analyze the Mediterranean cities. Looking forward to see, first of all, full video, and at the same time, the suggestion of increasing the population is interesting, and there might be also some question. Of course, Professor Me, also urban planner from the University of Hong Kong, also might have some questions, since it is also she also specialized in this field. But the way that you suggest this method to analyze the cities, to propose that idea of increasing the population is interesting, and we shall have some discussion part. The authors also might have a question, so we will continue, if you don't mind, at the end, the discussion part. And right now, let's continue with Dr. Milika from city of Niš to deliver her keynote speech.
Good morning, dear colleagues.
Dear Dr. Urash, we cannot hear their voice. Would you please repeat?
My name is Milica Maxi. It is my great pleasure to participate in this conference as a keynote speaker. Thank you for the invitation. Special thanks to Dr. Urash Ahmadnia. My name is Milica Maksic Mulovic, and I come from the Institute of Urban Planning, City of Niš in Serbia. My speech connects two themes: urban planning and brownfields. Are planning policies for brownfield sites properly defined? Does the planning process allow for efficient brownfield regeneration? Serbian cities do not usually include the theme of brownfields in their planning policies. I will present here the case of the city of Niš, which included the theme of brownfields. I believe that the recommendations of the Niš case study can be applied internationally. There is a wide range of definition of brownfields. American and Canadian authors connect brownfields with contaminated sites, while European countries' definition of brownfields varies from country to country. Developed countries have long-term experience with the problems of brownfields, while acceptance of brownfields in post-socialist countries was delayed by approximately 30 years. There are no unique key factors in successful brownfield regeneration. Many studies have pointed out the need for collaboration among different actors. Planning instruments can be divided into classical instruments of urban planning and informal practices. The system of planning documents in Serbia is defined by the law on planning and construction. The law divides plans into spatial and urban plans. This is the spatial plan of the Republic of Serbia, the plan for the whole territory of the country. This plan from 2010 is the first plan in the history of Serbia that recognized the term brownfield. The regional spatial plans, the plans for the middle level of spatial organization, include the theme of brownfield. The spatial plan of the administrative area of the city of Niš, the plan for 5 municipalities, and general urban plan, the plan for the urban area, outline significance of brownfield investments, list brownfield sites, but they both lack more detailed analysis of the individual locations, their surfaces, and specific mechanisms for regeneration. Many institutions in the city of Niš are included in the planning process, but there is no specific institution in charge of brownfield regeneration. In the next part, I will present the planning process of 2 brownfield sites in Niš, the electronics industry and the Jastrebovac factory. These sites belong to the industrial brownfield, which were social enterprises restructured over the course of time. Both are located on the outskirts of the city on the main traffic routes. This is the Jastrebovac factory within General Regulation Plan. Within the catchment area of the plan, the Jastrebovac factory complex was only one of its parts, 2.5% elaborated by the plan. The plan, besides the Jastrebovac factory, contained other industrial and business zones and housing zones. Therefore, uses of space, construction routes, and infrastructure equipment were given at the level of zones, not specifically for brownfield sites. In the plan, the roads in the Jastrebovac factory were not defined as public surfaces, and the owners of complexes were left to regulate traffic networks by mutual contract. This did not prove to be a good approach. The urban plan did not determine areas for public functions, public greenery, nor it directed specific attention to cultural heritage. No specific institution was in charge of actors' coordination. There was no association of private companies to unite all the enterprises and present their interests. All private actors acted individually with partial information, often with mutually confronted attitudes. There was no inclusion of civil sector actors in the process of plan preparation. The elaboration of brownfields in other general regulation plans was similar to the case of Jastrebovac factory, with the same problem. The case of the electronics industry will be presented here as a positive example in brownfield site planning, whose planning process differed from the planning for other brownfield sites in Niš. Since 2000, when the process of privatization started, there were numerous problems in the functioning of the complex, mostly related to traffic and infrastructure. In 2013, the city of Niš joined the international project, within which experts share their knowledge in brownfield regeneration. 2 documents were prepared, the location registry, and the previous feasibility study. In 2014, the detailed regulation plan for the complex of the niche electronics industry was prepared. Within the complex, main roads were defined as public. The reconstruction of infrastructure network was planned within the roads as public. Unlike the Yagsebet factory, the planning process for the electronics industry was marked by good coordination of all actors. As the city of Niš was very interested in activating this site, the mayor's office was in charge of the following plan preparation. The entire process was supported by the international organization East Ambero Icon Consulting Group, whose experts share their knowledge in the planning process to improve the plan. The Association Mediano, which represented the interests of businesses from the complex, actively followed the whole planning process. On the other hand, the lack of civil sector involvement marked the process of plan preparation. The detailed regulation plan particularly valorized cultural heritage and promoted archaeological findings and industrial heritage objects. The central part of the complex was defined as an industrial heritage protection zone. The plan especially considered public functions, designated areas for green space, schools, and infirmary. These are recommendations for future planning practices. There is a need for preparation of a planning document which elaborates in detail brownfield location. The plan should be prepared specifically for the brownfield site with detailed rules of construction. The preparation of location registry and the previous feasibility study before preparing the urban plan is recommended. Defining certain areas as public functions and greenery within the complex, and promotion of archaeological and industrial heritage as tourist potential increase the quality of urban plans for brownfield sites. By mutual cooperation of enterprises in brownfield regeneration, better results can be achieved. Ways for civil sector engagement should be found. A specific institution in charge of brownfields at a local level would improve the process of regeneration. The inclusion of international organizations should be supported in future in order to gain international experience in the brownfield regeneration process. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, dear Melika. The way that you suggest, I think the proposal of using the brownfield, the method, would be applicable in my mind to in other cities as well. It is a good case study that you have done. I really appreciate that. We will discuss about it in the discussion part for sure. I really appreciate indeed. So we shall continue with Professor Dr. Mee's presentation. If you don't mind, just a moment to play the video, then we will discuss.
Hello, my name is Mi Kang-hoon. I am a professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Department of Geography and Resource Management and Director of the Urban Studies Program. I'm also an Associate Director of the Institute of Future Cities, where I run the Center for Community and Place Governance. So I would like to welcome you to the 4th International Conference of Contemporary Affairs in Architecture and Urbanism. So while I look forward to learning from you all, I will also share in my keynote speech a topic related to urbanism. I will talk about people's rights to the development of space and place in our cities. Why is this important? It is because this will directly affect our physical, emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So I hope you will enjoy the conference, and may I wish the conference every success. Right, today I'm going to talk about people's rights to spatial development for multifaceted well-being. It's very important for us to have the right to shape the space, that shapes us. As David Harvey argues, people's right to spatial development is the right to change ourselves by changing the city. So a right to shape spatial development is important because space enables our multifaceted well-being. And doing this will also shape our shared human dignity. So what is this human dignity? It's very important. It's the absolute inner world of a person. It's an ability for us, recognizing that each of us can think conceptually, we can deliberate, we can discuss, and we can make free choices. It's a natural ability to shape our own lives. Right? So dignity is the moral basis of our shared humanity. Now, for full moral respect of human dignity, we need to do this. If we understand that shaping spaces will enable our multifaceted well-being, right? So if we understand this, so we need to also make ourselves, responsible, to be responsible for other people's dignity. So that means we have to take action, although we may be limited by our time, our resources, or by competing moral demands. We have this, responsibility to have to shape the space so that other people can flourish as well, so that they can also develop their best, potential. So in other words, we do have this imperfect obligation to have the flourishing of others in order to realize our shared human dignity. So the right to spatial development, therefore, is the right to live a flourishing life with dignity, and you and I have the right and also the responsibility to shape spaces so that we can all achieve this multifaceted well-being. So this multifaceted well-being is equivalent to human flourishing, and this well-being, according to the World Health Organization, health is not just about, no disease or no infirmity. Health is actually a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. All right, and this is our fundamental rights. It's the fundamental human rights without any distinction of race, religion, political belief, economic, and social conditions. So I want to introduce this spectrum and health map. It helps us to appreciate that we all live, among ourselves in our local community, which is embedded within the bigger built environment and the natural environment, and also the global, situation. And there are different types of well-being that we need to pay attention to, like physical well-being, emotional well-being, psychological well-being, and social well-being. And for physical well-being, we understand, that we need to eat well, we need to sleep well, we need to do exercises. And how can we encourage people to do more exercises? Then we need to shape our spaces into more active spaces, like, a lot of sidewalks, improving the walkability of the place. It's also very important when we build our recreational spaces. It's going to be inclusive, that people can enjoy it, with their various kinds of abilities. Another kind of well-being is what we call emotional well-being. Now, emotional well-being sometimes has to do with our human biology. Some people are born happier, cheerful. Other people seem to be more pessimistic, but if we provide a nicer environment, it will nevertheless, boost people's feeling of the place and make them happier. So this concept of biophilia, this like our affinity to nature. So the building of green settings is very important because green settings have the capacity to alleviate our mental fatigue and also restore our capacity to pay attention. So some places draw people together, and that, you know, when they come together, they will have abilities to develop their ties and social capital. Also, places that encourage physical activity can very effectively prevent and treat depression. So settings like these just make you feel very calm, recharge your energy. Another kind of well-being is what we call psychological well-being. It has to do with our relationship with others. If we have positive relationship with others, that we can master the environment and being autonomous, we will accept ourselves more and find purpose in life and also have personal growth. Like Professor Kawachi and his colleagues argue that social capital actually affects our health, our well-being, because through the exchange of network-based resources, such as social support, collective action, in the built environment that will provide opportunities for us to interact and also promote investment in a shared space. So like in spaces like this, people come together with different abilities. They can actually feel like more mastery of the environment. They can develop positive relationships and experience growth together. Okay, and then the social well-being is also very important. So the emotional and the psychological well-being are about the person, but if people experience that kind of connection with people and connection with the environment, they will actually, they together will promote social well-being. They will accept one another, they can actualize their potentials, they can contribute to society, and they can be sort of more integrated with, the bigger community. Like Professor Barton argued that social inclusion is critical for health and is related to place quality or place equity. So accessible, inclusive transportation, affordable housing, safe neighborhoods, these are very important ingredients in spatial development, and these will also play a very crucial role in shaping social inclusion. So therefore, health. So location, urban form, environmental characteristics are very important for good or ill. Professor Craigwell said, place is a kind of necessary social construction, something that we have to construct in order to be human, right? So this is our human dignity, that we come together and we construct this space, and we hope when we construct this space, it's going to promote multifaceted well-being, is going to flourish everyone. That is, facilitating our shared humanity. As Professor Barton argues, that there is no longer any doubt that spatial planning has a critical role to play in promoting health and well-being. Now, what are the implications when we shape spaces? So this right to physical well-being means that for architects, for planners, we have to create place quality that will promote physical well-being. We need to create places for emotional and also psychological and social well-being as well. Say, for example, allowing private spaces, right? You cannot really allow people to live in too cramped an area. We need to provide living infrastructure so that people can satisfy their needs. They are drawn to this green environment because of our biophilia nature. And this moving infrastructure can also draw people together so that they can develop social capital. So the socio-pantic spaces that allow people to come together is also very important for our well-being. Complete neighborhoods, right? Allowing people to satisfy their needs within like 20 minutes neighborhoods is very important. Or building streets which are not just for cars, but streets with pedestrians, with cycling, with trees, and with economic activities. These are very important to boost our social well-being. Or like building walkable neighborhoods with a lot of sitting out areas or even economic activities. Community forums also very important. Local markets, allowing economic activities, but at the same time also accumulation of social capital or public spaces, public realm for play, they are, very important. So I hope to conclude in this talk, you can realize the importance of our responsibility and our right to spatial development, because these will actually directly affect our multifaceted well-being. And when we shape the space, we need to provide, privacy, spaces for people to retreat a little bit, even in the public domain. Very important for us to provide green spaces, biophilia spaces, biophilic design, bringing nature into our spaces. If you cannot do it, at least, bring something that simulates, nature in our design. That would also help. Or we should also provide a lot of socio-pensive spaces so that people can come into one another, they can develop social ties, social capital, and make sure that all the spaces are going to be socially inclusive. That's what I want to share. Thank you.
It was great. Thank you very much, dear Professor Dr. Me. Indeed, we need to regain people's right by, let's say, our approaches in our design planning, looking back to the Mediterranean, our history and Mediterranean, Middle East, and let's say medieval cities. We can see that everything have been designed based on human scale, and their social right have been. Maybe it is my problem. The YouTube was open, sorry. Looking back to the medieval cities, and we can see that everything have been designed based on human scale. Their social right have been, let's say, dedicated throughout 1,000 years that have been designed. But unfortunately, during those modernist period and after Industrial Revolution, because of those massive construction, urban designers for a short period of time, they lost to adapt themselves based on the traditional rules and regulations of, let's say, people's right. That's why nowadays you raise this question exactly. It is nowadays problem of regaining the people's right in our socio-spatial construction of the cities that we will discuss within a short minutes. So I will give the floor to Dr. Roxana and Bhusam to start the discussion. But before that, I would like to thank to Professor Dr. Haider that he accepted to have his own keynote speak in his own session. Then last things, I'm going to give the moderation to Dr. Salar. Thank you, Dr. Salar, accepting the invitation, and Dr. Roxana later will start to continue the discussion in the keynote session part. So you may start, Dr. Roxana. I am going to give it to Salar, the moderation.
Good morning. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you for the participant of being called. Yes, Professor Dr. Haider, since his topic was related to the recent studies, will deliver his keynote speech in session A at 3:50. He will deliver his speech in session A. Before starting the discussion, I wanted to announce. Thank you, Dr. Bhusam, for your interesting work. Of course, I have some questions since the topic brings some misunderstanding to the scholars. That's why we are here to clarify our mind. And thank you, Dr. Me and Dr. Melika for the topic. In fact, Dr. Me, it was very interesting because yesterday one of our keynote speakers was talking about biophilia in terms of indoor thermal comfort, and now you are bringing the discussion for the outdoor, let's say, or in fact in urban spaces, and bringing in social and functional well-being. And thank you, Dr. Melika, for in fact going to the topic of regeneration and brownfield sources. First, I want to ask from, before I ask the question, I want to ask from the audience if they have any question from our valuable keynote speaker. Yes, Dr. Yasser Mahbub was written. The question goes to Dr. Hussam. The topic is interesting. However, it needs some specific example to clarify the argument. Whether I don't know it will be the note or Dr. Hussam, you want to respond? Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree totally with this, but actually in this, it was only a brief presentation. And the full lecture, there are so many examples from different regions on different scales even, sometimes on a territorial scale, sometimes reflecting from a perspective of a country, and sometimes directly onto a port city. And I think the study covered the whole 21 countries around the Mediterranean and covered several regions in general, and then even I think around 10 cities in specific were analyzed in order to clarify the argument in a more rational way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hussam. Yes, the next question goes to Dr. Me. Biophilia is always seen as green, while most of the earth is yellow and blue.
But yes, I think biophilia is not confined to just green infrastructure. I think I talk about blue-green infrastructure actually. So the water features are also very important. I think the whole idea is that, you know, we have this natural affinity to nature. And I think, you know, the whole idea is, as human beings, how can we actually work better to restore, you know, natural beauty? I think that is very important. I agree that, you know, the chair just said that because of industrialization and modernization, we actually have tried to develop at the expense of nature and the environment. And I think we have learned a great lesson in face of climate crisis. And we really need to work harder to restore, you know, the blue and the green, and hopefully turning some of the yellow back into, you know, the green or even the blue. So I think we really need to work very hard on that.
Thank you very much. Yes, any more questions? And Nishad was writing, biophilia is about nature rather confining only to blue or green. Yes, dear audience, is there any more questions? Okay, the one question I have, dear Dr. Hussam, is that distribution of population, of course, you know, it is not only the distribution of population, since it will be also about the construction as well, since we are distributing, because we are now living in one place. The issue is that how we can prove that it is not going to be misunderstood by urban sprawl. Well, from the note, I realized that you were mentioning urban and rural. This is also supporting the point, but however, how we can, let's say, bring that discussion that it will not be misunderstood to the urban, with the urban sprawl. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this argument, even we had it over the past 2 years on different discourses and courses with students, in seminars, even with master students and so on. And sometimes the answer was sometimes sprawl is the answer to some urban problems. So sprawl is not really always a problem if it is a planned sprawl. This is the difference. So we are, of course, if we look now at Cairo or Egypt in general, this is why probably I focused more on the Egyptian planning experience, because it has some deliverables that can be touched. It's tangible when I argue about these points. So, for example, when we talk about the population or the distribution of population in Egypt, or let's say, first of all, in the whole Mediterranean, it's always counted on the whole country. It's not, we're not taking into consideration the different urban elements that are the major, probably the major valuable resources, such as water. Of course, as I mentioned in the pre-presentation, that Egypt has about 45 new settlements or new cities, urban communities, let's say urban communities. None of them, except only one, Damietta, New Damietta, is actually located or planned on the coastal line. Only one. All the others are planned randomly in the country. So again, is this sprawl or not? I think this is sprawl, but it's planned sprawl in the vision of the government, without any infrastructure or without any base of sustainable development. But if we have such elements, such as, okay, we have the canal, which is the Suez Canal, which brings above 12% of domestic income. We have the Mediterranean Sea, where we have less than 1% utilized areas of the whole coastal line of Egypt. Less than 1% is utilized. So yes, they have the capacity to plan 45 cities, but it's not planned in the right way. This is the argument. But if we integrate rural development, which is declining a lot, the rural development is declining, although the rural lands is increasing according to statistics. So we need to integrate the communities into more rural and urban integrated communities, and integrate it to water, and keep the planning as it is. We need new communities, and this is the fact in Egypt. It's where to go with the people. Of course, we need communities, but how to plan these communities is really the question.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Hussain. Yes, we are. Is there any more question?
I see one question from Dr. Yasser about what I mean about randomly.
Yes, please, Dr. Yasser.
Yes, Dr. Hussain, you are making sweeping accusations of randomness of planning and incoherences of the proposed developments. And I think this needs to be qualified. What examples? Can you give us concrete examples? And also, you cannot use the whole land of Egypt without infrastructure, and infrastructure is the problem. So actually spreading the population over large areas, you need large investments for planning. That's why focused urbanization in certain areas with infrastructure is another approach. The whole city, the whole country is desert, except the valley and the delta. Coastal lines, yes, they are available, but you need infrastructure, water, electricity, sanitary. All these are not easy to have everywhere. Even the current utilization of the Northwest Coast, this was not the original plan made by Dr. Abdullah Abdulaziz during the 70s. The original plan was to have concentrations and concentrated urbanization with virgin and open beaches. But the current utilization is not correct. So you can, and that I agree with Rosanna is that urban sprawl is a problem, and we cannot just encourage it without justification.
May I answer, Dr. And it's not. I think it's not an answer because it's probably even a discussion because I'm speaking in front of me with the most experienced probably professor in these developments in Egypt. Well, when speaking about yes, you are right about this. Probably the development in Egypt, the cities, the new cities in Egypt, when we want to measure the how successful it is, I think the first thing is to look at the did it reach the target population or not? I think this is always the first measure because this is the first reason why we have new communities. So if it did not reach the target population that it was proposed and planned to accommodate, then there is a problem. And this problem, if we have less population in an area, then the government will not invest enough into providing infrastructure or services or even connections. And this is a problem if we look at the coast, at the northern coast, where even the railway is not connected well to the coastline. And the railway in the ancient times was even an element to connect to the ports. So this even encouraged the disconnection between the port, the water, and the city. And if we look at the scale of Egypt in general, we find that there is no territorial connection between the new communities. And I think this encourages the sprawl even more. But probably the study that I try to conduct is only to direct, to give a direction on a planning method or a planning development planning of these new cities, instead of just locating them with no foreseen potential in targeting the right population or in reaching the targeted population. And this is why, for example, we see compacted cities and other very dense cities, but with very low compactness. And of course, we know, all of us in Egypt, how the pressure is on the Nile Valley or on the Delta, but these new communities are actually even eating some of the agricultural lands on the Delta. So this is why I'm trying to give only a direction on how to do that planning in the right way. Dr. Yasser, please.
Dr. Hussam, I'm not convinced, Marish, excuse me, but
no,
your
please,
your argument is very general. It's not specific. It is not based on evidence of examples. It is not based. It's just a theory, and it's not based on experiential examples or examples from experience. So I think the whole theory needs to be revisited and built on actual experiences instead of top-down approach. You need to look at examples and investigate the successes and failures in each development and in each new city, since we are now in the fourth generation of new cities in Egypt. This is not the first time we do this. Heliopolis was a new city, 10th of Ramadan, and October was new cities. And then we had the intermediate new cities of Al-Shuruq and Al-Abur and all this. And then we have this fourth generation of new cities that we are doing now. So all these experiences, we went through several studies of research, of investigations, of evaluation. Yes, of course, nothing is done perfectly, but I think to propose a theory, that sweeping theory, you need to base it on experience and evidence, not just propose a theory to be followed. Yeah.
Yes, of course, the theory is always valuable, Dr. Yasser. You know, always we are till this moment, we have first theory, then coming. Then, of course, the evidence is very important. And of course, we are the man of trial. One thing, this is because it was very interesting, the research of Dr. Bhusam, and it was a very interesting discussion. While I was reading the book of Sustainable Urban Form, I was studying the case of Brazil, densification, or let's say intensification in case of Brazil, uh, and, and informal compactness in Egypt. I don't know whether the case was the city of Cairo. However, it should be more detailed because somehow when we are coming to intensification, or let's say densification, with the informal compactness, or let's say building, of course, since I was studying the case of Egypt in case of informal compactness, it was very interesting. The case of Dr. Bhusam was telling. Of course, there are several theories on that. When we are facing with informal compactness, yes, the discussion is right. It depends on the case that we are studying. I was never, unfortunately, I tried to go to Egypt, to Cairo, but they didn't give me anything since I am holding an Iranian passport. Anyway, I am not a political person, but anyway, I didn't, although I love to see Cairo, but I couldn't. And this is the point, maybe going into detail, which type of city, which type of built environment we are discussing, and then it will be more suitable. This is my opinion. Because in the theory, I am not rejecting one theory or approving one. These are some, of course, there are several in theory, we are receiving several criticism, even in practice as well. This was my point I wanted to discuss regarding this issue based on my study that I had in reading the Sustainable Urban Form. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Of course, I would welcome any sort of comments. Or I know that the topic is very probably theoretically wide because it's trying to reflect on so many points that are always debatable. You know, even inside Cairo, we debate about one another. So it's a way for me here in this platform. It's a way even to personally develop this research. So I would welcome any sort of experienced opinions about this. That would be great.
Thank you very much. Almost there are also the question or the comment probably from Dr. Asule regarding the creation and development of new cities around the big cities as a new policy has a negative influence the port stature of the coastal cities. And then I hope we will consider as the last question. So then we can go, since we want to be on time at 10:15. After that, you will answer Dr. Bhusam the question, and then we will go to the civil engineering panel, and we will distribute it in session A, B, and C. Yes, please, Dr. Bhusam, the floor is yours.
Would can you ask the question personally, please, if is here?
Dr. Asule. Yes, Dr. Asule, would you please ask the question?
The creation and development of new cities around the big cities as a new policy has not negatively influenced the port status of has not negatively influenced the port status.
status
of
of
coastal cities. Actually, it's if I understood the question, actually it's the other way around. It's this model or this creation, the development of new cities around the big cities. If you speak about the existing, it's a situation. If you speak about the proposal, it's a different case, because the proposal is actually trying to overcome the negative influence of this disconnection between the city and the water. So with these polycenters, if it's always probably more of rural urban integration of developments surrounding each other, even when we have cities like for example Etko or Rashid away from the coast, it would redirect the development eventually to the coast. So it would eventually, of course, connect to the port, which is dead in some cases. I don't know if this was the point or I misunderstood.
Thank you very much. He received a response, and of course, it is not clear which kind of negative aspect, environmental or so on. Hopefully, he will contact with you, and probably they should also see the whole keynote speech that we shared with them. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain.
Thank you.
Me, Kam, and Dr. Melika for your contribution, for accepting our invitation. Yes, within 2 minutes we will start the civil engineering panel, which will be divided in 3 sessions: session A, session B, and session C. In session A, Dr. Emre Ulkan, I hope, Dr. Emre, I am pronouncing fine, from Department of Architecture and Civil Engineering from Istanbul, Istanbul Romeli University in Turkey, will take the session A, and I will be session A. However, it will stay in the same of the opening ceremony. I mean, session B, which you can click on the PDF file, it will moderated by Dr. Halil Ibrahim Bulgan. He is also from Department of Civil Engineering from Akdeniz University from Antalya. And then we have in C session, we have Dr. Seda Bostanji from Department of Faculty of Engineering and Architecture. Sorry, Seda Hocam, it was Economic and Administrative from Tekirdağ University in Turkey, which will take the moderator in session C. Thank you very much, and then we will start the session. Thank you very much. Yes, dear, you can say in the ones who are in session A will stay in this session in the same Zoom. Dr. Salar.
Good morning. This is Emre Ulukan.
Yeah, good morning, dear Dr. Emre. Dr. Salar.
Dr. Salar was online as well.
Will help you. Yes, Dr. Salar.
Yes, I am here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Salar.
I am leaving now.
Okay, shall we start with our session then?
Yes.
To prevent being late. Okay.
Doctor, let me know if you have any problem. I am with you now, and the platform is yours now.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And my name is Emre Ulukan. I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Architecture at Istanbul Rumeli University. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this outstanding conference. I would like to start with expressing my thanks to the organizers of the conference, especially Dr. Hurash Ahmed Nia and Dr. Roxane Rahbarian Yazd, for their unlimited energy and exceptional effort they put into this conference and to this organization. So basically, you cannot manage what you don't know. A key principle of management science. Project management in construction industry is very complicated. There are so many inputs, outputs, tasks, interdependencies, and external factors impacting the construction industry. These factors have a major impact to the success of the construction industry, and construction industry has a bad reputation in terms of the project success rates, as there are many examples of unsuccessful projects from schedule, cost, quality, and user satisfaction perspectives. One unexpected event or issue can have a knock-on effect, and it can affect all stages and all components of a construction project. Therefore, construction data is valuable information to help governments, investors, contractors, and all other parties involved in the construction industry. Utilization of the data helps managing the projects and operations in the industry and ensures favorable outcomes for all. Construction data helps mitigating construction risks by providing a clear route towards the right direction, by making conscious decisions. Therefore, it is vitally important to continue these kind of researches in the areas such as construction management, construction data, construction engineering, and technology, and all relevant areas which are the focuses of this specific session. So after this very quick introduction to our session, I would like to continue with the presentations. The first presentation is my article, and let me quickly share my screen to start with the video. I believe you should be able to see my screen now.
I think the sound is muted. We cannot hear you.
Okay. Sound was actually unmuted, but let me start again. The sound is not muted actually, but I'm not sure what the issue is. Let me change the speaker. Is it any better now? Can you hear the sound?
No.
Okay, Jude, does anyone know how to share this with the voice? Okay, let me try.
Can you hear me now? Let me try this way. Assistant professor at Istanbul Romania University, Department of Architecture. I'm presenting my article, Increasing the Efficiency of Construction by Assistant Risk Management in the Construction Industry. This article is a PhD thesis. Construction risks have been a critical concern for the success. Mass capital investments in the construction industry, which may significantly impact for the construction investment is highly dependent on budget control and cost management that take the risks into account in this construction process. However, the efficiency of cost management is limited unless potential risks are identified, which is a challenge due to the construction process and a number of external factors in the construction process. Determination of the risks may have a local effect, which may increase an effective method is required by the potential risks in construction costs and to estimate the most accurate possible. The objective of this research is to the impact risks over the construction costs by identifying the risks, quantifying the potential impacts, analyzing the interrelations of the risks on construction processes, and identifying the contingencies as remediation actions. This provides a cross-functional perspective in managing construction costs and increasing the efficiency of cost management. To achieve these objectives, a group of methods have been integrated by utilizing Delphi method for identifying and quantifying the risks, cross-impact method for analyzing the interrelation of the risk factors and their impacts on each other, risk-adjusted discount rate method to convert the impact of risks into contingencies, and the accuracy of the method has been further increased by utilizing the Monte Carlo simulation, which simulates multiple real-life scenarios to identify the most realistic and accurate results. To provide some definitions, Delphi method is a forecasting method used for collecting group opinion or making a group decision by surveying a group of expert panelists. Cross-impact method is a technique used to determine how interrelations between different events would impact each other. Risk-adjusted discount rate method is a technique used to determine the risk premium for taking the risk into account in an investment appraisal. And Monte Carlo simulation is a method which simulates multiple real-life scenarios to identify the most realistic and accurate results. The methodology is basically based on integrating two pillars of the project management areas, and these pillars include cost management and risk management. As you know, cost management includes very basic 4 steps, starting from planning cost management, estimating costs, budgeting, and cost control. And obviously, each of these phases or knowledge areas involve a number of techniques. For example, planning cost management includes or can be carried out by work breakdown structures, scheduling, resource planning, etc. And then estimating costs involves some tools and techniques such as cost benchmarks, expert judgments, historical data. And budgeting involves funding, financing, cash flow planning, and cost control also involves
forecasting, cost tracking, and change management kind of applications or tools. On the other hand, risk management involves, again, four simple steps, starting from risk identification and then continuing with risk quantification, risk response development, and risk response control. And each of these phases or steps have their own techniques to provide data and analyze them, such as risk identification involves expert judgment, checklists, benchmarks, interviews, and risk registries. Risk quantification includes expert judgment, again, expected monetary value estimating and simulation. And risk response development involves procurement, contingency planning, insurance, alternative strategies, and risk response control involves risk registries, risk management plan, and risk tracking. As part of my research, I have tried to increase the efficiency and accuracy of each of these steps by using or utilizing some different methods. For example, I have used Delphi method for the risk identification phase, which is based on, as I mentioned, which is based on expert opinions, expert judgment from expert panelists. And then cross-impact method has been used or utilized at risk quantification phase to provide more accurate data and to analyze the impact of each risk on the other ones. And I have used Monte Carlo analysis for improving or increasing the, again, accuracy of the data by providing or by translating into more realistic and real-life data. And then obviously all these analysis and tools have provided a number of risk premiums as a result, which is used as the risk response development. And then all this data, again, once again, has been translated into costs by using them at one of the cost management phases, which is the budgeting. And in order to achieve that, I have used risk-adjusted discount rate method to improve or to translate risk premiums into costs. So overall recommended model can be seen on the screen. This method obviously has some advantages and differences versus the standard methods applied in the industry. While standard approaches apply cost management and risk management methods discretely, this method integrates both processes. This method increases accuracy of risk quantification and therefore cost estimates and the forecasts. So this also provides an advantage for complex projects where accuracy of the forecasts are crucial. Calculations and findings are closer to real-life scenarios due to the Monte Carlo analysis. And outputs of the standard risk management methods usually determine risk premiums as contingency levels. However, risk premium is not a contingency. Contingencies are for unplanned situations and unexpected costs. However, similar to the inflation rate, there is always a risk factor impacting the construction costs, which is usually overlooked or simply considered as contingency. Once again, I would like to remind that risk premium is not a contingency. Therefore, this method helps taking the risk factor into account while estimating the costs realistically, just like adding the inflation rates. Then the contingencies may still be applied for unexpected events. The findings and analysis have been basically shown a number of improvements using these methods. This method was applied to a construction of 3 8-story apartment blocks, and 6 participants accepted the invitation to participate the survey. And 2 rounds of Delphi survey was conducted, and the number of participants and the number of rounds for the Delphi survey deemed to be sufficient, as the experts reached a consensus on all of the assessments in their second round. And survey outcomes were used to create the cross-impact matrix to determine cross-impact relations of each risk item. And as you can see, the screenshots from the various phases of the model has been shown on the screen. The probabilities have been identified and cross-impact calculations was done. Estimation of impacts, i.e. the risk factors on phases of construction, was carried out as well. And then obviously all these analysis, especially cross-impact analysis and calculations, have provided us the risk premiums, as can be seen at the bottom of the table, the lower section of this page. So in the end, the results actually have been achieved by running the Monte Carlo simulation 10,000 times. And as a result of the Monte Carlo simulation, the final figures that you can see on the screen have given us the risk levels, which has been impacted by other risk elements. And this gives actually the figure that needs to be used as the risk premium when estimating the costs. So as part of the conclusions of this research, identified the most risky phases of this specific project as the foundation and structural construction phases. Therefore, the method can be used to identify the risk levels of each phase and identify their cost impacts of each project. The results may prove to be different for a completely different project, obviously. The important outcome is that the model has been tested in this project and identified certain levels of risk premiums which can be added to the cost of each phase or task in order to achieve more realistic and accurate cost estimates and cash flows. Results show that if the risk factors occur sequentially, the cost of the structural system works phase of this sample project may be increased up to 26%, where the least impacted phases have still a premium of 9 to 10%. With the standard approaches in the industry, a contingency based on the average risk premium could have been applied. However, as I mentioned earlier, the risk premiums are not contingencies. Therefore, they should not be applied as contingencies. With this method, we are able to apply realistic risk premiums in each phase rather than a general contingency. Contingency may still be applied for unexpected events and costs. The main problem of the risk-adjusted discount rate method being unsatisfactory because it is usually based on a personalized analysis without any detailed knowledge of the market's actual risk returns. By this research, the observation and the analysis of the risk-adjusted discount rate method can be applied effectively and accurately. This method is proven to be a contribution to the development of a conceptual and mathematical model, including risk management-related contributions such as evaluation, quantification, and analysis of risk factors, and their interactions in different phases of construction, and their impacts on the other risk factors as well as the phases of the constructions. The concept applied can be extended beyond the specific problem addressed in this dissertation. The scope of the method can be widened very easily and can cover all the processes starting from the feasibility analysis to the operation phase. The results show that there are significant variances on the costs when they are adjusted by the inflation rate and by the risk premium together. This proves that the need for the risk management and the cost management are serious and inevitable, which requires an integrated method for achieving higher accuracy. The results also prove that assistance of risk management methods considerably increase the efficiency of cost estimates, budgets, and cost management efforts. Thank you for listening to me, and I wish you a very nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. You can continue with others.
Thank you so much. Our next presentation is the black spot analysis on national highway in Palembang region, and presented by Ms. Sartika Nizumanti. And I will again start the video.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce, I'm the lead researcher, Sartika Nismanti, research member Unita Mentari from Indo Global Mandiri University of Palembang. In this presentation, I will discuss about black spot analysis on national highway in Palembang. Introduction. The increase of the transportation facilities in South Sumatra province have been seen from the rise in the number of vehicles from 2017. The number of vehicles sold 1,137,113, whereas in 2018 the number was 1,225,824, and it reached 1,226,938 in 2019. The level of traffic accident in Palembang, South Sumatra province, the last 5 years continued to rise, reached 7,016 incident. The traffic disaster in this route will be more and more lightened up every year. Then it will need identification of where the black spot location and the factor that has been caused it. The aspect of travel misadventure, the handling of part of black spot area. The component of a traffic accident will be analyzed from the questionnaire result. Well, the black spot investigation based on frequency methods, IND, outset, and the accident equivalent rates or IX method. Research methods. This research was conducted the National Highway of Palembang. The selected road section are Soekarno-Hatta Street with along 8.3 kilometers. Governor Haji Muhammad Ali Amin Street throughout 3 kilometers, and Legend Harun Tohar Street along 3.2 kilometers. And the case of analyzing black spot accident data is taken every kilometer with utilizing frequency methods, IND, outset method, and the accident equivalent rate or IX method. The stake in this research are first doing study of literature formula of the problem, preparation, collecting data, route condition data, route geometry, route facilities questionnaire, accident data. And then we do data analysis as road infrastructure condition and accident fatality rate. Then analysis of accident cause and proposed treatment and consolation. Result and discussion. Analysis black spot, analysis of the location of the black spot per road section was studied based on data from the police unit Lakalantas Palembang, South Sumatra. Based on the table, 2015 show the extreme for the frequency method is 4.45. The ID aus age method 23.5 with an extreme limit of 21.75. Well, IX method obtained an extreme limit with a value 25.95 and for the following years as in the table. The result of traffic accident data analysis show that the black spot has dominated the occurrence of accident during the last 5 years, or in another sense that the location is prone to the accident with the intensity of recurring event. So it can be concluded that station 23 first 500 is a black spot location on Soekarno-Hatta Street. And then Gubernur Haji M. Ali Amin Sarjana Hukum Street data on traffic accident obtain the location of the black spot where the point has dominated of the occurrence of the accident during the last 5 years at station 4 plus 0 is a black spot location. And black spot legend Harun Sohar Street. The result of traffic accident data analysis show the location of the black spot where the point has dominated the occurrence of the accident during the last 5 years, or in another sense that the location is prone to accident with the intensity of recurring event. So it can be concluded that station 12 plus 600 is a black spot location on Legend Harun Sohar Street. The factor that question an accident. Location on Soekarno-Hatta Street, black spot location is at station 23 plus 500. Road user factor, car and motorcycle driver drive vehicle at high speed and many motorcycles violate traffic flow. And road factor, there are no sidewalk on the road, so that pedestrian access is very limited. Pedestrian use the shoulder of the road as a substitution for sidewalk, thereby facilitating conflict between pedestrian and vehicle. The making have been erased. The sign condition are blocked by trees. Then Gubernur Haji Muhammad Ali Amin Sarjana Hukum Street, black spot location is at station 4. Road user factor, driver of car and motorbike driving vehicle at a high speed in addition to many motorcyclists who violate the traffic flow and do not wear helmets. Road factor, there are no sidewalk on this road, so that pedestrian access is very limited. Uh, some of the roads making have been erased so that the condition can cause a driver to lose control, especially at night. Site condition. There is a site with the ineffective position where the cycle is facing sideways. And legend Harun Sohar Street, black spot is at the station 12.6. And user factor, the driver drives the vehicle at high speed and break the traffic flow. Roads factor, sites are less effective because they are blocked by trees. Conclusion. Location of black spot at Soekarno-Hatta Street is at station 2023 plus 500. The roads of the Governor Haji Muhammad Ali Amin, Sarjana Hukum Street, the black spot is at station 4. Meanwhile, Legend Harun Sohar Street location black spot at station 12 plus 600. Thank you for your listening and your good attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sartika. And Mrs. Sartika has focused on a very important topic for all the cities, not only this specific city. So thank you for the very valuable contributions. And our next presentation, according to the program, first we will present all the presentations, and then in the remaining time we will discuss about the, we will do the questions and answers sessions. So the next topic is the analysis of the use and application of design-build contracts and build-operate-transfer contracts in construction sector. This is going to be presented by Mrs. Zeynep Sarbaz Abdulhamid, I believe. However, I did not see the YouTube link. I couldn't see the YouTube link in the conference website. Is Mrs. Zeynep here? And will you be able to share your screen to present your video, or will you be able to share the link so that I can share on my screen? Or Mr. Gökhan Gelişen? I think we don't have the participants on the session. Okay, in that case, with your permission, I would like to skip this presentation and continue with the last presentation for the session A, which is the patterns in the development of drones in the construction industry and forecasts regarding Turkey. And the research has been carried out by Mr. Abdullah El-Zariki, Ms. Karin Farag, Mr. Baran Guryuva and Dr. Can Aktaş. And I will share the presentation now.
Hello, everyone. Today, we will discuss patterns in the development of drones in the construction industry and forecasts regarding Turkey. Topics covered. We will begin with a brief introduction about drones and then their different implementations in civil engineering industry. We will then go over construction companies that were benefited the most from using drones and countries involved in construction drone. We will then talk about current Turkish construction industry and predictions for drones in Turkish construction industry. Finally, we will conclude with predictions for drones in construction industry. To begin with, let's start by defining what an unmanned aerial vehicle is. And simply, it's an aircraft flown with no pilot on board. It's also referred to as drones. Drones are an emerging technology with many potential applications in the civil engineering field. They ease the complex tasks for civil engineers and workers that requires close visual investigations in order to assess the true state of deterioration. As shown in these pictures, visual inspections can be tough and complex sometimes, especially in hard-to-reach locations like these shown in the pictures. And the best solution for these kind of situations is the usage of drones. This discussion leads us to the advantages of drones in construction. And the advantages of drones in construction can start as early as bidding and pre-bidding. Drones can accurately perform digital terrain models and digital surface modeling for the topography of the site, which provide valuable information about bidding, digging, and storing materials. Secondly, planning and design. Drones, with the aid of modern technologies such as augmented reality and laser scanning, can provide accurate data to establish BIM and CAD models for planning and designing purposes. Earthworks also have a benefit from drone technologies, such as volumetric analysis using GPS, high-resolution cameras, and laser-aided equipment to yield fast and reliable data about the earthworks required for a work site. Finally, LIDAR, which is remote sensing pulsed laser to detect objects and measure distances, detect gas leakage, moisture, and thermal traces. Now that we have talked about the many advantages of using drones in construction sites, let's talk about construction companies using these drones in their construction projects. In the light of the data we collected, we observed that American construction companies use drones more than any other company, followed by UK. We also observed that 73% of construction companies using construction drones have revenues exceeding $1 billion. The chart on the right shows construction companies' profit in $1 billion, and the graph on the left shows construction companies' specialties. And we can notice that drones are being used the most for general construction, followed by management, design models, heavy civil, and earthwork. Drone companies, which are the companies that either manufacture drones or offer their drone services for many other purposes. We also noticed American companies use drones more than any other company, followed by the UK. In countries like Israel, Switzerland, China took a share of 8%. France and Canada contributed by 4% each. We also noticed that China is the top drone supplier, and these drone suppliers companies have revenues more than any other companies in the world. And most of the drone companies, like these Chinese drone companies, are software companies. The chart on the right shows revenues of drone companies in $1 million, and the graph on the left shows specialties of drone companies. We can again notice that drones are being used the most for surveying, followed by inspection, modeling, mapping, and many others. Actually, our study mainly aimed to identify factors that are correlated with drone use across multiple countries, and to pinpoint specific characteristics that result in some countries adopting drones more or earlier. That's why we began with overall economy of countries, GDP per capita. Generally, high GDP per capita indicates prosperity where innovations are easier to fund and test on field. However, correlation was not found. While we have companies like US and UK who are the top or like the most countries using drones in their construction, we have some outliers like Qatar, which has nothing to do with the usage of drones. Another correlation might be the importance of construction industry to the GDP of the country. That's why we checked percentage GDP of construction industry. Once again, correlation was not found because the countries that has high percentage GDP of construction, or like most of them, have nothing to do with using drones in their construction sites. Another important application for using drones in construction industry is their usage in infrastructure projects. That's why we checked logistic performance index, and correlation was found because like the top countries using drones are listed the highest or like are the highest rated in this list in front of us. We also checked countries that has existing drone industries, and correlation was again found because the countries that has already an existing drone industry are using drone in their construction site the most. Now, construction industry for Turkey is so important and crucial. It's directly responsible for 8% of the economy and indirectly responsible for 30% of it. It's employing about 2 million people in Turkey, having more than 150,000 engineering and construction companies operating in it. Turkey already has an existing drone industry in both civil and other fields such as mining and agriculture. Huge revisions of existing structures are needed due to changed earthquake codes and recent disasters occurring in it. So to conclude the future of using drones in the construction industry, Turkey is ready to implement the usage of drones in its construction industry with less risks because Turkey is already active in both fields, drone industry and logistic-related construction. This innovation is so much needed and recommended for Turkey, and this innovation will make a huge effect on its GDP and its construction industry. And to conclude about drone industry future, we can say that drones can be a huge integration factor in the biggest innovation of the construction industry, which is BIM systems, building information modeling. Considering how the technology evolves, drones will be much more common in the future, and early usage can bring construction industry to sufficient levels, preventing technology backwater in near future. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Ms. Karim Farah. Okay. Now, sorry. Okay. Okay. I believe we have covered all the topics for our session at the moment. Do we have the participants to present the presentation on analysis of the use and application of design-build contracts and build-operate-transfer contracts in construction industry. Do we have Mrs. Zeynep and Mr. Gökhan Gelişen online?
They are not attended yet. I think we don't have much time.
Yes. Professor Salah? Okay, in that case, yes, thank you, Ms. Nermin. In that case, we will have to skip these participants, and hopefully they may attend later on during the day in one of the other sessions. I will take a note of that. And I believe we have just 10 minutes left for a question and answer session. So in this case, I think we have lost Professor Salah as well.
No, I am here. I have some problem with my internet connection. Sorry. I suggest, Professor, I suggest to start the first round table discussion, because I think Zainab it's not around. Am I right?
I believe so. I couldn't see her online either. So let's, as you suggested, let's start with the questions and answers, the round table.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Salah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions from anyone on the presentations? As a reminder, my presentation was on more like project management and management science related part of the construction industry. And Ms. Sadka was focusing on the traffic accidents, which is a very important topic for all the cities, and obviously which needs some solution to reduce the accident numbers. And the last presentation was focusing on more technology part of the industry, focusing on the drones.
Dr. Emre, if nobody has a question, I have one question for you regarding risk management. I want to know how can risk management be applied in the projects inside Turkey? Because you know, risks management actually it is extra burden for the investor, you know, because maybe it can cost more or increase the budget. What is your opinion about that?
Sure, thank you for your question, Professor Salah. Basically, I believe there is a misunderstanding or misconception or misperception in the industry about risk management. The general opinion is that risk management increases the costs or budgets, or may have a, it may even have a direct cost due to, consulting to some of the consultants in the industry. However, just a quick background on my thesis. I have written my PhD thesis almost 15-20 years ago, actually. So this is the first time I've been presenting it, because I have been working in the industry all these years. And I have seen from many multinational companies that actually risk management has been integrated in their processes without any costs. It's just a simple process that they can actually implement. So when I have written my thesis, obviously risk management was new in all the world, not only in construction industry, but it was new even in the finance industries. Therefore, there weren't sufficient techniques and tools to quickly and easily manage the risks. However, with the development of the technology and softwares and obviously the overall industry, risk management has become a very easy tool to use. However, there is, as you mentioned, there is still a perception that it's a heavy burden and complex methodology. And just to admit, even my model here may still require some simplification because it's a sequence of some tools. But as I mentioned, in the industry, there are some very basic tools used at this moment. So as a next step for myself, as a homework, I will be also a little bit more simplifying my methodology. But as I mentioned, actually, the risks are there in the industry. And just like the inflation rate, the risk has a certain cost impact on the project. So sometimes companies can perceive this as an additional cost. But if they don't take this into account when they are budgeting, in the end, they face with some cost increases, which actually causes a unsuccessful project. So I believe the perception needs to be changed in order to implement risk management in Turkey, more than current situation. I'm not sure whether that's been.
Thank you. Thank you for this clarification, because the idea regularly about the cost management, it is risk management, it's increasing the cost. It is great that we hear from your side that it doesn't affect the total budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question as well.
Thank you, Doctor. One question more I have to Karine or Abdullah, I don't know, about the drone. I want to ask how much actually drones are invading our life in many fields. But I want to ask in the field of surveying, if they have idea, what is the tolerance of accuracy for the drones in surveying the positions or locations? I don't know if I can get the answer.
Hello, thank you for your question. For surveying, actually, we don't have a specific percentage of accuracy, but for surveying, it's already being drones are already being used for this, and we know that it has a good and great role in surveying, but exactly the percentage of accuracy, we don't really have an idea.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your answer.
Can I add something to the discussion? I was in the drone project too. While it's not possible for us to give an exact number on precision and how applicable for the efficiency of these drones, but when we, let's say, look at the case studies regarding the use of these drones, many of them were giving numbers about this project used to take 8 days to check, 8 days to correct, and now with the use of drones, it's now reduced to 4 days. When we check about case studies about oil rig maintenance, we saw that many oil rigs need to be maintained for 2 weeks per year, which can cost 8 million. But with the use of drones in some sectors, they are giving numbers like this is reduced to 4 days, 5 days. So while giving an exact number about the efficiency of these drones for maintenance or surveillance and other stuff, we can roughly say that it reduces manpower for small structures, not small structures, but for structures like bridges, dams, and oil rigs for half or more than half. And for infrastructure projects, while the reduction in days and manpower is much lower, it is still a considerable amount, like 1/3, for reducing manpower usage.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And any other questions to any presenters? I think we have all the questions covered and answered. In that case, I think we are very much on time. And in this case, I believe we can close the session. However, before closing the session, Professor Salah, I have made the introduction, and would you like to close the session with just a few words? Thank you so much for great moderation.
Thank you for your participation. We are glad to have you with us, Professor Emre. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the participants as well. And
thank you.
See you in other sessions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.